Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1970s.
Mr. Henshaw, white meat or dark?
This is episode 194, recorded July 24th, 2023.
Gruesome Magazine.
I'm your host, Doc Rodden, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1970 and 1979. Each episode, my co-host Jeff Mohr and I will take you on a tackle another classic or not so classic film from this wondrous, groovy, gory, and influential decade. Let me introduce the crew, starting off with my co-host Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
Wretched. I'm wretched.
You're wretched.
Simply
always,
wretched.
Always wretched. Also joining us tonight is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, special effects guru, and all-around nice guy.
How am I doing? Well, we've only got like 2 weeks left of summer vacation, so I'm going to enjoy it while I can. Probably reading a good book.
I mean, your book.
Yeah.
Titled?
Titled Raum. R-A-U-M. Oh, that's showing up. Okay. Yeah. Get it at Amazon. It's cheap.
It's cheap. Also joining us tonight is Chad Hunt. He is a Comic Book Cars co-host, Decades of Horror. He is also a producer and writer and actor and all kinds of crazy nonsense. This man is insane. How you doing, Chad?
I'm fine.
Yay! That is perfect. I am so glad you're here. All right, we are gathered to review the 1974 classic. Or not so classic. Shriek of the Mutilated.
Take about 20% off the top of that there, Doc. Okay.
Yes. Now, is this the last one of our 10 films that are?
Oh no.
Still more?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but this was our dear friend Santos Allen Jr. It was the Black Saint. It was his pick for 1974. So let's find out why tonight. That's going to be fun. All right. But before we get into that, Jeff, I think you have some stuff to share about Play Now Media.
Well, yeah. Decades of Horror and Gruesome Magazine are partnering with Play Now Media, and the Decades of Horror on several of their streaming channels. In particular, you can find the 1970s on Wicked Horror TV. And they're kind of what's the word I want? Multi-purpose channels, because you can watch stuff for free, but you'll get ads and you won't be able to get the premium content. But if you pay your subscription rate, you can see everything and without ads.
Free.
And it
Sounds like a bargain.
And so for you folks out there, I mean, Dave Greer, does Dave Greer realize they have a Sasquatch channel? I'm just wondering.
Oh, we got to share that with him now. And then anybody that's watching this movie we'll get there.
And a wrestling.
A wrestling
Well,
channel.
there's a Grindhouse channel. There's wrestling.
That's wonderful.
Old school wrestling.
Wrestling.
Oh, no. Well, we are going to be reviewing Shriek on the Mutilated. If you enjoy what you see, we hope you enjoy this discussion. And if you do, hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend buttons. Every little click helps us find more horror fans just like you. And maybe you'll get me some training lessons on how to host a podcast. All right, let's take a look at the card and then we'll get into things. Shriek of the Mutilated.
I just love that picture. Oh, God. Look at that comb over.
Yeah, that is not the Mutilated, but
he's headed there.
Yeah.
But maybe. Directed by Michael Findlay, written by Adlum and Ed Kelleher. Cast includes Alan Brock, Jennifer Stock, Tawm, Ellis, Michael Harris, Darcy Brown, Jack Mubeck, Tom Grail, and Ivan Agar. The production company was an Adlum and Mike Findlay production. Filming location was in New York at the Fordham University, Bronx, and Croton-on-the-Hudson. The release date was July 18th, 1974 in the U.S., and then it was re-released. Can you believe it? Re-released April 23rd, 1982, with 4 other films in a just a package. We'll get to that. It is what. All right. It is also known as Scream of the Snow Beast. That was the TV title. I don't think I've ever seen it on that title. It was also known as Mutilated El Grito del Mutilado. That was the Mexican title. I guess Cry of the Mutilated. I guess they can't shriek in Mexico.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go with that. Synopsis is a group of college students are led by their professor into the mountains in search of the Yeti. The students start to be killed off one by one. That is a pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So put that card up there again, Doc. I just love that 3D sculpture in the background.
Yes.
I love everything about that picture. I imagine this is how Michael Findlay directed the film.
Nah, with the bottom
just
of
like that. Yeah.
Well,
It looks like people were putting their cigarettes out on that
Oh
sculpture.
my gosh, that's awesome. All right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to give
they
you.
certainly didn't worry about shooting his good angle. I'm sorry.
We're going to.
Yeah.
No, there was a lot of bad angles. All right, let's find out what our when we first saw this, what our first impression. Does it hold up today? Let's find out that. Before we get into our discussion about the film, who picked this? This was Jeff Mohr. Jeff, when did you first see this film, and what did you think of it?
I saw this a few years ago, basically because it was on Santos's list. So, and by the way, we could bring this up later, but we're still missing two more movies from that list. One is Kingdom of the Spiders.
Really? We need to do that one soon.
That was chosen by Santos, and the other one was Vampire Lovers, chosen by the Doc.
We need to do that one too. All right. Those are both good choices.
They are.
Anyway, so I picked this, and then I couldn't believe it. I saw there was a Blu-ray because it's pretty fuzzy, and it was anyway back when I watched it, and it's actually a pretty good Blu-ray, and there's some interesting stuff on it. Most of it has almost nothing to do with the movie, but it's still kind of interesting. And I believe it's a Vinegar Syndrome. But anyway, oh, what a mess! What a mess!
What a mess, he says. Oh,
and I'll tell you one of the things that was on. Well, first off, Eddie Adlum was all about the marketing. He's the producer and the co-writer, and it was all about the title for him. Shriek of the Mutilated, and I totally agree with Bill. We were talking offline. I'm stealing his line, but it's like one of the best titles ever. And it's, this got him automatically purchased by a distributor. Took a while, but it did. Anyway, and he said, as an example, his daughter was in a grocery store and heard some guys, college commons, and heard some college students talking about the worst movie they'd ever seen, and they were pretty much talking about the one guy said, "Well, it's got to be Plan 9 from Outer Space," and the other one said, "Oh no, I got one worse than that." Well, what is it? Shriek of the Mutilated, and Eddie Adlum said it made him so proud when he heard that it would go down in history. But anyway, this is just. The other thing he said, which is really obvious, is, this was our first movie and we didn't get the whole show not tell part. So there's just unbelievably dialogue and scenes that go on that don't do anything. So anyway, the monster is bad. I do like the little twist at the end, which is why Santos said it disturbed him when he was a tyke. And watch this, or a youngster. Not much of a twist since it's on the poster, but anyway, I'm going to stop. I blabbered on, but I actually I enjoyed the hell out of it, and this has some laugh out loud moments in the dialogue. It's just
oh my.
Anyway,
we'll get to all that and more. Bill Mulligan, sir. When did you first see this, and what was your first impression?
This was a holy grail of mine for the longest time because it did not play late night where I was growing up, or at least I never saw it. There used to be a magazine called the Monster Times. Good luck finding any copies because it was printed on newspaper. It was like a monster newspaper. The cheapest paper you can find. It's all been eaten by silverfish. I mean, I'm sure I have a box of them somewhere, and when I find it, it's going to be like confetti. And there was an article, I think it might have been written by Adlum.
Adlum.
Yes. It was either an interview with him or he was one of the characters in. They were talking about Invasion of the Blood Farmers. And then there was also a review of Shriek of the Mutilated. And everything about it made me want to see it. It just is like, wow, but the title was great. I was really into Bigfoot, still am. But then I couldn't find it for the longest time. And then I heard more and more about it, that its reputation was not super favorable. finally found a gray market dupe or something, bad copy. The Vinegar Syndrome one, by the way, is gorgeous. It's the best the film has ever looked. It probably didn't even look this good when it was playing at the drive-in. It's amazing how good the film looks. Doesn't make you reevaluate how good the film is, but at least it looks good. And yeah, the folks who made this movie, they had made a lot of movies. They weren't great movies, but they'd made a lot. They knew what they were doing, more than you might think from a bad copy. It's terrible, but it's compellingly terrible. It's the kind of terrible that doesn't make me want to fast forward. It's goofy, it's silly, it's all building up for this climax that then goes on for like 10 minutes of explaining it. Some of the choices they make are just so dumb, but clever. Like, we have a scene that takes place in a snowstorm, but there was no snow because they weren't filming in the winter. So they just use like a negative or a bleach bypass or some way of making everything look just blown out. Okay, doesn't fool you for a minute, but it's kind of clever. This movie just feels like it fell out of another dimension. It's just it's very odd and weird and wonderful and terrible. Every you just don't know what's going to happen next. Oh, they're going to play the song Popcorn, maybe the most inappropriate piece of music ever for a horror film.
Well,
and it's
the
actual
popcorn. They were eating popcorn.
And they showed popcorn. And in the middle of the movie, my favorite part, it's one of my favorite sequences in a movie whatsoever, the thing where the husband and wife kill each other. Why is it there? It feels like they had this leftover stuff sitting around from one of their earlier Ruffy movies and decided to just stick it in there for no good reason. But it's great. It just stops the movie dead and is never referred to again, or, it doesn't need to be there, but okay, whatever.
Well, it does fit into the story.
It does, but
I mean, he went on a trip 8 years ago and has PTSD and finally goes totally nut job when
it's before I saw this movie. Before I saw this movie, I heard a little bit more. I picked up a really cool book research that talked about the Findlays, and they talked about their Flesh trilogy, which we'll talk about later. And it just that sequence felt like it belonged in one of their earlier films. They had an interesting career. So look, you got to be in the right frame of mind to watch this. It probably helps if you are a heavy drinker, or with a bunch of buddies watching it. This is a great movie. This is one of those movies that should have been Mystery Science Theater 3000, but never was. And if that's the kind of thing that you enjoy, you probably know by now. Do you like marginal movies? Do you like dumb movies? Some of them are just bad and hard to watch. Fury of the Wolfman. Some of them are bad and enjoyable to watch, and that's Shriek of the Mutilated, for me at least. I can easily see people who are like, "Why did you send us to this film? I will never get that hour and a half of my life back." You're right, but I think most of our audience will probably get a kick out of it. Yes. Don't expect much.
I would agree. I will agree with you on that, Chad Hunt, sir.
This is the first time I've seen this.
This what?
And,
what?
Whatever this is, this is the first time I've seen it. And I was gobsmacked by this movie. The acting is terrible. The dialogue is so bad. But at the heart of it, there's a story there that would probably make a good horror movie. I mean, these group of people go into the woods looking for a Yeti or a Bigfoot, and it's all a sham. They're really a cannibal cult that they were brought there to be eaten. it sounds like on paper that sounds like a good horror film, you know. But boy, howdy, they don't tell you that till close to the end. You don't find out really what's going on, and the whole time before that, you're just going, "Holy shit!" And the first time the Yeti came through, and I was like, "Are they kidding with that? Are they kidding with that costume?" It actually had Yeti pants on. You could see where the cuffs of the Yeti costume ended. And it was terrible. It was terrible. And I was just going, I'm going to kill these guys. I'm going to kill them. I'm going to kill Jeff. You know, I'm going to kill Jeff for this one. And but then at the end, the reason for everything kind of made sense. Didn't make the movie any more enjoyable, but at least it explained why the creature looked so horrible, and there's not a lot of gore in here for people. The title saying there's mutilated.
Well, there's
shrieks in there.
There's dismembered legs and
yeah, if that's what you want to call them.
Big scratches on the face.
Yeah. There's some the Indian guy. The Indian. What was the guy's name that the house they came to? What was his name? I can't remember.
Crow.
Not him, but the actual guy that lived there with Laughing Crow. I can't remember his name, but he walked around silently, just scaring the bejesus out of everybody. You know, at one point or another, and the girl goes, "Who is that?" And he goes, "Oh, that's my Indian."
Oh God.
He's the best. He's such a good cook, and he works for 12, 14 hours a day straight with no questions. And he's a mute guy, and he's supposed to be mentally deficient and that kind of thing. And I was just sitting there getting angrier and angrier.
It is offensive as hell.
Yeah, it is. But but I couldn't turn away from it. It's a car wreck, and I was rubbernecking the whole time. So.
I love it. Yeah, it is absolutely a car wreck. I have been avoiding this. It's not that I didn't watch it. I've been avoiding this movie just because I knew how bad it was. And so yes, you picked it. I had to watch it. All right, I'm game. I will do it. I will take one for the team. Right? It actually isn't as bad. I don't even know how I'm saying this. It isn't as bad as its reputation. It actually has this weird quality to it that doesn't make it good, but it makes it entertaining and watchable in a very demented sort of way. Yes, any kind of mind-altering liquids or drugs would help this movie watching it, but not that we endorse that. Don't do that.
You don't even have to be a heavy drinker.
Some states it's legal.
Right.
Anyway, this movie it's an absolute best. It is, and you're absolutely right. The costume is the idea of it, right? We'll get to the posters here in a second. It actually looks great in concept, right? But it's just a shaggy dog kind of thing running around with, like you said, Yeti pants.
Yeah, I thought it was a giant Shih Tzu at first.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was just
close.
And but it does at the end. It kind of says, "Well, of course it looks like that." But not only does it look like that, they had two. They had two. One for each. It does have. It kind of has one of the endings that kind of goes. You kind of like. It could be a groan-worthy ending, but yet it's kind of like, yeah, I'll take that. It's kind of like, sure, that works. That's better.
Makes more sense than a Yeti in upstate New York.
I know. It's like a Yeti. And it was like somehow it like swam across or got caught. Because it was some kind of weird thing about the island. Anyway, it's preposterous. It's stupid. The acting is horrible. The dialogue is even worse. Although when we get into it, I will give some credit to a couple people for doing above and beyond. Not many, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to say, yeah. I had a good time. I didn't want to, but not because it's good. But it's not because it's good. This is
Right.
like,
But people say, "Oh, worst movie ever made," and they Plan 9 from Outer Space. You can watch Plan 9 from Outer Space from beginning to end and be entertained. Yes, it's bad, it's incompetent, but there's a story that's being told. It's actually a fun film.
This is
Not for any of the usual reasons, but there are films you watch.
that are just
Castle of Fu Manchu, I'm
awful.
looking right at you. That
Yeah,
it's
just awful.
it's a slog to get through. It's just it's torture. You're just trying to do anything except watch it. I don't know exactly what the quality is. I'm not sure you can intentionally do that. Just sometimes
no, because
all
when you
this
try it,
incompetence,
you fail.
Yeah.
Right?
all this incompetence comes together and somehow makes something that's strangely compelling.
I think people that call these the worst movies ever made have never really watched bad movies with any, intent to survey.
Well,
Yeah,
Plan 9,
I've seen far worse movies.
Plan 9 is kind of a special breed because it just has
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
horrible props. It has things that don't make sense. Things are out of, continuity errors and
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's also
people-
got
people that aren't obviously the people they're supposed to be. So
it's got the sincerity that the people who made it thought they were making a great movie.
and you know what? That's here too. That sincerity, I think, is in this movie as well.
Mhm.
You can tell that everybody, even the people that we're going to give shit to here in a minute, they were all in. Everybody
They were
was
trying.
all in, right?
They
all
were
doing-
swinging for some of those actors are swinging for the rafters.
Yeah, but it's so I think it just becomes entertaining, but not even just by sheer determination, not by sheer talent.
The really bad movies, like what Jeff was saying, the really bad movies are ones you don't talk about because you didn't finish watching them. About 20 minutes into it, you're like, oh, life is too short, and you stop. So it goes away. What people usually mean when they say that's the worst movie ever, it's the worst movie I ever sat entirely through. From beginning to end, I couldn't turn away. And those aren't the worst movies.
Yeah, because you sat through them.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
should we do our regular piece now?
We should.
Oh,
we should.
of course.
Indeed.
This one must have some great taglines.
It is now time for taglines with Chad.
Look at that pretty face.
Where
All righty. Your taglines for Shriek of the Mutilated. Piece by piece, the bodies vanish in Shriek of the Mutilated.
Piece by piece.
piece by piece.
They do.
Piece by
Yeah.
piece by piece.
Actually, they find the bodies piece by piece, kind of, sort of.
No, they've been mutilated. So, yeah.
And they
Yeah. A corpse is bait in the trap of terror.
yes.
That was that was one of the most unbelievable shits I've ever seen in a movie. They were using the previous victims as bait to trap them.
Yeah.
Trap them.
No, the best part is they're giving the one girl shit about not going along with this horrifying plan. Like there's something wrong with her. That's the most gaslighting I've ever seen in a movie.
Mhm. It is. It was
And tying her standing up to a trailer.
Oh, the other girl. Yeah.
Anyway.
A frenzied hunt for a hideous beast with pants on uncovers an evil cannibal cult, and death is the devil's blessing.
Give away
Well, thanks
much?
for giving away the
Give away
ending
much?
there.
They do. They absolutely do.
That was the elevator pitch right there.
Yeah.
All right. It walks, it stalks, it tears the shriek out of your throat.
There's a shriek out your throat.
Wow.
I like it.
Yeah.
Off
that's not
screen.
bad.
Yeah, and I think this goes to the whole the idea that this is there was some genius marketing that went into the title and some of these taglines. The rest of it, not so much genius, but
Yeah.
at any rate.
It's a little surprising to me. They got an R rating for this. There is someone mentioned this. There's not a lot of gore in this at all, really.
And don't be
You know,
thinking
with-
there's nudity because there's an R rating.
No.
So,
And
But before
considering who made this, that's
before we go too
surprising
much
to me.
farther, we have to follow procedure here.
Use a
And
stick.
that's been Taglines with Chad.
Cower, you're cower.
Okay, Bill, what were you saying?
No, when I first got to see it, and I like I said, I found a gray market dupe or whatever, and it didn't look good, but I was like, did I get an edited version? Because where's the mutilation? Yeah, you're right. Yes, there's a leg here and a foot there or whatever, but they're so obviously fake that it's like you'll go to any corner of a Spirit Halloween store. They should be opening up soon. You'll find stuff that's way gorier than this. There just wasn't a lot of gore.
Do you think it's the implication of cannibalism alone?
Probably.
Yeah.
That
Yeah. Cannibalism's a big no-no. But
Especially
they
back
could
then.
have made it gorier. I don't know why they didn't, because again, the folks who made this movie were no strangers to really transgressive cinema. But I don't know. Maybe they were going for a PG or something, but they didn't get it.
Well, that's true. There wasn't a PG-13 so
Yeah.
you're kind of one direction or another. And
I can remember seeing this playing in drive-ins. We still had a drive-in near my house, and they would often show like quadruple features of horror movies. And a lot of times it was really rough stuff, Andy Mulligan movies. And they would slip this in there too. And I think it was strictly for the title. The title, it'd be Headless Eyes, The Corpse Grinders, Shriek of the Mutilated. There were always these really graphic, nasty sounding ones. And most of those films actually, delivered.
Yeah,
but this one, mild.
Here is interesting on that it was re-released theatrically in 1982, like we said, but it was part of a multi-film package, 5 films, and it was called 5 Deranged Features.
Well, what were they, Doc?
I'm going to read that. It starts off with Dracula versus Frankenstein, another great bad movie, but it was under the title They're Coming to Get You.
Yeah, good move.
The Wizard of Gore, under the title House of Torture.
That one delivers.
Yep. Creature from Black Lake.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And The Corpse Grinders, under the title Night of the Howling Beast.
Which I had to look that up, because
that's the name of
versus the Yeti or whatever the one that we did. Oh God.
Werewolf versus
Paul
Yeti.
Naschy.
Yeah.
The Paul Naschy film, and I had to look this up because I thought that's got to be a misprint, but no, that's an alternate title for Corpse Grinders too. So
yep, that never happens. No.
There's no howling beast in Corpse Grinders, as I recall, but maybe the cats were howling. I
don't know.
Well, so they released that to like drive-ins, or was that a DVD?
It says to theaters, but I would suspect drive-ins, because drive-ins were still around in the 80s.
Yeah, they were.
Can you imagine going to the drive-in and 5 of those movies later, you stagger out just.
Where I used to live in Florida, there was a drive-in, and those titles look so good on a marquee outside of a drive-in.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And it's just made for that. You want to see it. Shriek of the Mutilated. Makes you want to go see it.
Yeah, I think like every October they would do one of those on the weekends. They would do the all-nighters, right?
It would be an all-nighter. You paid one price and one price for your car load, and you just stayed there all night at the drive-in and watched stupid, nasty, dumb movies.
Yep.
For the whole crowd, including the guys in the truck.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, Shriek of the Mutilated, among all these other ones, brings up an image that we never see in the film, but it brings up an image that you want to go, wow, where are they going to get to that?
All right, let's take a look at some of the posters, because the posters also sell the movie, in my opinion. They also give it away, but that top poster is I would want to go see that movie if it came out today. It's a great poster. The artwork is fantastic. The scenes that they have are and the little squares are great.
This happened in the movie. It happened in the movie.
Yeah, it actually happens in the movie, so you're not being
and the monster looks pretty much like he looks there, except in real life it looks really silly, but okay.
But
you're right. You mentioned earlier that tagline there at the top gives away the twist, because it talks about what does it say?
Evil cannibal cult.
A hideous beast uncovering an evil cannibal cult. And I made my brother watch this with me.
No.
We were at his place, and he picks up the thing, reads it, the thing, and goes, "Oh," because I thought you said this was a Yeti movie, and this says cannibals. So the whole rest of the movie, he's waiting for the cannibals, you know. So,
he gets it. He gets it. They deliver, though. They deliver.
And of course, if you saw that on the poster and remembered it, as soon as you get to the scene early in the movie where the guy's, what's this delicious meat I'm eating? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, duh, kind of telegraphing it. But.
Yep.
Give me my usual.
And the bottom poster,
that's a great poster.
That's a great idea too. Just the claw, because that sells the it's so much better than
It is. Both of those. The top one looks like an old pulp magazine cover,
Yeah. Even just the scratch going through the word mutilated. It's just a nice touch. There's a lot of competence in the marketing that is nowhere to be seen in the film.
Do we know who? I'm sure we know who did the artwork on. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. But the illustration is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
On
both.
Yeah, and Ed Adlum said when he sold this movie, like he sent it to a whole bunch of people, and they all thought it was an interesting storyline, but they didn't know what to do with it. I don't know that anybody said it's trash, but finally, some distributor called him at his job and said they wanted the movie, and what did he want for it or something like that, and he told them how much it would take, and they could have it lock, stock, and barrel and do anything they wanted to with it. And the guy started to dicker with him. And according to Adlum, he said, no, you don't understand. This is like going to the grocery store, buying a dozen eggs. You don't dicker at the cash register on the amount. That's the amount. So the guy paid him whatever it was he asked. He did not divulge the amount. But,
fantastic.
Anyway.
Give him some balls on
He's crazy.
That's probably a smart move, because if you read interviews with the folks who made these grindhouse movies, any money you got up front was all the money you were ever going to get. The distributors would lie through their teeth. It could play at a theater for 6 months, and they would say, "Oh, nobody's going to see it." It's like, I don't know. I think you would have gotten a different movie by now.
Yeah,
unless you had to track them down. And some of these distributors were. Well, I think they knew people who knew people, and you probably didn't want to get too
you put a gun on the wrong side of their people that they knew.
Yeah.
Not that part of it, but that happens today with independent filmmakers, getting distributed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's not that hasn't changed, unfortunately, because you have no way of knowing, and then they can write off so much expenses that you'll never know how much. You'll never see a dime.
Yeah.
So you get it up front. So good for him. These are some of the other films they made. Bill, do you want to talk about these?
Okay, so the Findlays, Michael Findlay and Roberta Findlay, an interesting couple. They made a number of films. These are probably four of their most famous. The Curse of Her Flesh, Kiss of Her Flesh, and Touch of Her Flesh was a trilogy of what they called the roughies. These were softcore adult films. They did not show explicit sex, but they're loaded with nudity. And black and white, good photography, actually. And it's about this guy who he finds his wife in bed with another man, and he's injured in a car accident. He loses an eye or something, and then he becomes like a serial killer. And what's cool about it is in between the interminable sex scenes and strip shots, he kills these women in weird ways that is sort of like low-rent Dr. Fives. Like dips a cat's claws in poison and then scratches her with it, or electrified lobster claws, and really kind of goofy. They're not good, but interesting, an interesting combination of the sex and violence kind of
see
stuff.
a butt.
And then they made Snuff. Now they didn't actually make Snuff. They shot a film that's kind of like a Manson. It was sort of based on the Manson family. I forget what it was called. It wasn't good. It was unreleasable, really, just terrible. But then some distributor had the smart idea to take this lousy film, Stick in another scene at the very end where an actress who's supposedly in the film but really isn't is murdered on camera, and call it snuff, because there were all these rumors about these snuff films that were showing real murder on screen. As near as we can tell, they don't actually exist. At least not until like Faces of Death, which are still mostly fake, to start coming out later. And now we got YouTube, where you can actually see people getting killed. But the idea that they were actually making movies in South America where life is cheap. Well, they called it snuff. They put it out on 42nd Street, and in a brilliant move, again, the marketing on this, they hired a bunch of protesters. They hired people to protest this movie for being what it really wasn't, and that attracted genuine protesters, and the movie made a mint. And that's the story of the Findlays. Now, unfortunately, Michael Findlay, who seems like he was a troubled person, he really got into 3D and was they apparently had a really cool 3D camera setup that he was going to demonstrate somewhere, and was killed in a horrible accident in New York City where a helicopter tipped over while it was loading, and he was instantly killed. Roberta Findlay, I think by this point, early on, they had split up. She went on to be one of the few female porn directors. And she also made a few non-porn horror films like Tenement and everything. I'm not a big fan of her work. And if you see interviews with her, at least until recently, she was very dismissive, not just dismissive of her films, but very dismissive of anyone who liked her films. Like, she was very judgy of anyone, wondered why anyone cared and everything. But, they are an interesting couple. These films, it's amazing they still exist, because a lot of this stuff has disappeared. Nobody thought to save them, but these did still exist, I believe, and you can still find them on the internet somewhere.
She does the commentary on the Blu-ray with a guy named Casey Scott, which the cover says is a film historian, but I get the impression that he might be one of the principals at Vinegar Syndrome. I'm not entirely certain, and they should look his name up, but it really, most of it is like an old home week. They end up talking about all these guys. Oh, and there's so and so. Well, what's he doing now? Oh, I don't know. I think he went on to do this and he did that, which is kind of interesting, but doesn't really add any information to the movie. But one of the things that she said, and then there's also an interview with her as an extra to it, but she said they were already split up when this movie was made, and that he had an episode or a breakdown and went into the hospital. And so they called her up to come work on the movie and to be the quote unquote cinematographer. And she keeps talking about how she was into using handheld, because she talked about how smooth she was. And so I was watching this while I'm watching the movie, and it was mostly handheld. There's a lot of shots where the camera's moving, and it's not too bad. It's not what do they call it when they get the smooth moving cameras? Panaglide.
Steady cam.
Yeah, steady cam or any of those, but she doesn't do a bad job. And I actually sort of appreciated her camera work on this, considering what she had to work with.
Yeah, I agree. I was sort of surprised, but when you watch it though, there's some scenes that are pretty well composed and lit. The color is good, especially if you get the Vinegar Syndrome version. And then there's some stuff that really looks cheap and crappy. And did they run out of time? Was he having an episode? It sounds like this was kind of a troubled production.
Well, I assume that, especially in the action scenes, that they are intentionally blurry. When there's close-ups of the
Yeti.
The Yeti.
With his dime store fangs, that they were just those plastic fangs that you could buy.
Which was perfect.
She was an interesting character, and they were definitely part of a film scene.
Yeah.
In New York.
This was the New York,
by most people.
Right. This is the New York film scene where they were, and they have their own actors and style and everything. There was a time when the adult films were basically New York and LA. And eventually, I think the New York ones got shut down because everyone moved out to LA. The New York stuff was rougher. And a lot of that no longer exists. It disappeared. But yeah, it's an interesting thing. I do feel like she herself has kind of mellowed over the years. And because I read some interviews with her that were just so bitter. And it's like she was like being held at gunpoint. She did not want to talk about these things.
She didn't have anything good to say about Michael Findlay. And she also talks about how she started going with him when she was 16. And I think she got into was making these movies by the time she was 18.
Yeah.
So yeah, she actually I'm not gonna say that. Get the Blu-ray, and some of the stuff she said about him were pretty strange. The guy that played Dr. Prell, you know, the lead guy that was teaching the class that took him on the trip, Alan Brock. They said he had a history as a child actor, but then they went into that and said, but not a child actor like, you know, Bill Mummy or Jackie Coogan or anybody like that. This was like, you know, the extras child actor kind of thing. Because he doesn't have any credits except this movie.
So he's
Anyway.
an extra up until now.
Oh, he was extra in this movie, all right.
Yeah, because
I don't know.
Yeah, because you could argue that the movie is competently made. It's just the script and the acting and some of the preposterous costuming that just you know derails it. I mean, it even has. I mean, should we talk about the popcorn song a little more? I mean, because it did have this popcorn song, which is a hit. And
it's even in the credits, which shocked me because usually what they did back in those days, especially in the New York adult film scene, is they just stole music and slapped it in there. Because again, their idea was this is going to be showing in some horrible little theater to the raincoat crowd. And then once they're done with it, after it has its 3 or 4 weeks, I don't know. I guess they just cut it up into guitar picks or something. No one's going to know. The people who made this music are never going to be there. If they are there, they're not going to want to admit that they were there to find it. So no one's going to know. So you can just
didn't know VHS was coming, right? So
right.
Well,
but this one, they actually put it in the credits, which makes me think, did they bother to buy the rights to it? And how much did that cost? And
well, I don't know if they did later on, but originally it was like that band's first thing. They were an unknown band and there was nobody said anything. Later, when the song got to be a hit, then they had to pull it out and put something else in.
Because you couldn't turn the radio on without hearing that song.
God, that thing was
so I don't know when they added it back in, if it was for the DVD, Blu-ray, whatever, or if
the
copy
I had
paid for the rights, but
copy I had.
so does mine.
Yeah. I mean, that even happened on bigger productions and on TV shows. We did Love at First Bite, and that had the one song in there, and then. What was
WKRP in Cincinnati couldn't be shown for years because of all the bumpers that they used, little bits of Linda Ronstadt and they would charge them a fortune for just 10 seconds of music. So they just,
And what was it? The Tom Hanks show, they used
Bosom Buddies.
Bosom Buddies.
Bosom Buddies. Then they had a Billy Joel song in the beginning of it, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think you might be right.
I mean, there was a whole bunch. I mean, it wasn't uncommon.
The Bill's completely right about what they were doing. So according to Roberta Findlay, she was a classical music fan. And so to save money, they used classical music in most of the score.
Mm-hmm.
And to even go one step farther, they used Russian classical music because they figured no Russians would see this, so nobody would ever say anything.
Well, an interesting thing about that, I mean, that's a lot of the British actors, would do all these films, so they could support themselves for doing the stuff they wanted to do, the TV and films, because they thought nobody would ever see it. It'd play and be gone and it'd be forgotten about. They didn't realize that these films would end up, getting an audience and going to VHS and Blu-rays and everything over years and have this long life. That wasn't something they
Right.
They were actually
Right.
counting on not doing that.
Oh yeah. Well, again, in New York, you have a whole selection of off-Broadway starving actors who are, they got to pay the rent somehow. So you might get some actual decent actors in your adult film who are just like, well, no one will ever see this now. Okay. Years later, they finally get that role in the soap opera, and then somebody finds out, oh yeah, and by the way, we've discovered you can put this on DVD, videotape, and now it follows them for the rest of their lives.
I mean, it's worse now with the internet, but
yeah.
Okay. So I want to show these next two little graphics you made, Bill, because I totally did not see this coming. And when I saw them, I about fell out of my chair. So let's talk about the Scooby-Doo connection.
The Scooby-Doo connection.
Tell me, explain this.
I mean, okay, so we've got a bunch of kids in a van solving the mystery of the headless bobsledder, frozen caveman, upstate New York Yeti. Okay, so we got the good-looking, handsome guy. Okay, your mileage may vary, but the one that gives it away is Velma. The Velma chick with the big old glasses and the goofy, lovable chick. And then there's, danger-prone Daphne.
With the band.
Yeah. And then the kind of goofy guy. All right. All they needed was a dog. Well, the
Yeti was a dog.
They had a Shih Tzu.
They had the Shih Tzu.
Oh.
and then what happens? What happens at the end? We also should have seen this coming. The monster was actually, Uncle Al wearing a mask all along, trying to scare people off so he could build a, subway or something. And look at this van. It's got flowers on the van. It's the mystery machine. Yep. Totally.
It's a hippie van.
There was no
microbus.
They didn't solve the mystery in time.
Well, no,
they did not.
It's an Econoline. It's an Econoline.
I'm waiting for someone to do like a
Bruce Berry
an animated, combine these two together, do Shriek of the Mutilated as a Scooby-Doo short, and then end with the Scoob Gang all being killed and eaten.
Now that you've done this, I can't not think about it. It's so, you're damn right. It is. Yeah. It's absolutely that. It's so hilarious.
I am not the first person to make this connection. Believe me. In fact, I stole this graphic from some website where they had it arranged a little differently, but yeah, they got it's right. It's just 100% Scooby-Doo. Now, did the filmmakers intend that? Was it even on their mind? I don't know. Sometimes things just happen and all of a sudden you realize, wait, this makes perfect sense.
It's a big coincidence. Once you do it, it's kind of like,
yeah.
If they didn't, I think we're all getting. Was that phrase when they history changes on you?
Synchronicity, yeah. Mandela effect.
Mandela effect.
I mean, I've never seen any interview with any of the surviving filmmakers where they mention that. But then again, maybe they wouldn't want to. I mean, it's one thing to steal popcorn. It's another thing to go up against whoever owns Scooby-Doo, which is probably a big studio. Not that they could sue you for this. They're not going to.
Not now, anyway.
No. I mean.
But let's talk about.
There he is.
Talk about the Yeti. There's Chad's wonderful Yeti pants.
Boy, is he goofy looking.
And your teeth. But that okay. So the scene with him coming through the window. Okay, come on, that's fun. Coming up the stairs, that's fun.
Yeah.
Running across the side of the mountain, I thought was hilarious because he had a hard time keeping his balance and kept trying to slide down the mountain.
Do you know why I still hold out hope that Bigfoot is real? Because when you look at like the Patterson film, okay, the classic 16 millimeter Bigfoot thing that everyone looks at, it doesn't look as bad as this. Every time someone makes a Bigfoot movie, they spend some money on a Bigfoot suit and they film it with the best cameras, and well, maybe not this time. And it always looks like obviously a guy in a suit. Like there is no question at all in your mind that this is a man in a suit. And we've been examining that Patterson footage for all these years, and it's still up in the air on whether, people look at it microscopically and frame by frame, and we're not 100% sure. So I don't know. But boy, this suit's bad. And this suit is... Here's what gets me. Where did they get this suit? They had to build this, right? I mean, because this doesn't look like anything that they were selling.
I mean,
They sewed it. I mean, I think they bought like whatever kind of fabric you use to make stuffed animals and applied it to coveralls or something.
But given the budget,
a bleached gorilla suit. Right?
Yeah, given the budget they had, you would think they would just buy a gorilla suit and spray paint it white or throw flour at it or something. You know, what is it, whatever the cheap. But they actually went and built this thing. That face is unique. Yeah.
Your choice of words is great.
They put some effort into this, and for all their work, as Chad said, the guy's wearing Bigfoot pants. But then that's the genius of the movie. When it's over, it's like, of course he was wearing Bigfoot pants. Why wouldn't he be? So it would have been wrong if it looked too real, because these aren't a bunch of makeup artists. They're just a bunch of stinky cannibals. Upstate New York cannibals. What do they know about sewing costumes? This is better than it should be.
He had a lot of movement, and like Doc, you mentioned there were two of them. You want to expound on that?
Well, I mean, basically the guy with the receding hairline, the guy that owns the place, we'll get to his partner here in a second, and then the actual professor. They kept swapping out who was wearing the costume, so they had one that fit each. And when they open up, you see both of them hanging up.
And the one that was supposed to be the short one was supposed to be was actually Ed Adlum.
Oh yeah,
I think that's what.
I think you're right.
But yeah,
that's his Hitchcock moment.
They had to make two suits because one of them was shorter. They had to shoot him.
But it's great, right? Okay.
Did he grow since the last time I saw him?
Do we want to talk about Laughing Crow? I mean, we have to. Do we have to approach this? We got to approach this with a little bit of
what? We didn't do it. It's not our fault.
Yeah.
This might offend quite a lot, and it may have offended some of us here on this podcast. Bill.
It's not that well. Oh, sure. So go to me because you know you're going to get political correctness from me. I mean, this is not the first time we've had an Italian Native American pop up in one of our films, and I think the essential problem is you can blame it on racism, but maybe it's just that real Native Americans do not want to portray anything this terrible. It's and listen, why should this guy be a real Native American? The Bigfoot wasn't real.
That's true.
Yeah, you know,
even though he's mute at the end, he has a line, and it's the line that we said at the beginning of the show.
I'm just wondering why they thought that he would pass for an Indian anyway. He's just a hairy Italian guy. But okay.
But the way they introduce him.
Yeah,
right,
my Indian.
Yeah.
And no one blinks like, oh, yeah, you're Indian. Like everyone's got an Indian.
Well, the girl's like, oh, okay.
All right.
She took it like, okay. That's just my Indian.
Oh, God.
So bad. So bad.
He's actually a good cook. And what did he say? Oh, and he works around the clock. Cheap around the clock. Doesn't complain.
Because he can't talk. Of course he doesn't complain.
He was apparently the one that was running was it a tape player that was getting fed to the loudspeakers out in the woods.
Yeah. and then it breaks and plays some music or something, right?
Yeah.
That's super positive. That gives it all away.
But then that bottom picture where their whole goal, which is interesting, reminded me of the Tingler, is to scare one of them to death, right? And so they just keep
makes the meat taste better
and after.
Yeah.
I do like that idea that the meat tastes better from what I've
heard,
that's not true.
The truth.
Yeah, the adrenaline
the more
makes
scared
it taste
the
better.
animal is. The adrenaline. I grew up on a farm. That's the only reason I know this. When you kill an animal for slaughter, you have to be a little bit easy and then do what you're going to do. And if you agitate it in any way, or that adrenaline makes the meat taste really bitter and nasty. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
So
they like the IPA.
befriend it, and then
yeah.
Oh God! But maybe it's an acquired taste.
Yeah.
You know,
has to be.
maybe they like that little bitterness.
I like
there.
scared meat.
Well, can we say that
Oh,
the group of people that show up at the end are equally insulting?
Yes.
So he was Laughing Crow was making this pot of stew. That was a head in there, right? Or what was that he was basting? I thought it was like a malformed face or something. It was kind of round.
Yeah, whatever it was nasty.
Yeah, I don't know.
I like it when the one guy realized what he'd been eating all along. He was like, why has everybody got throw up in a movie?
He had the same look as the guy on the bottom there.
He did, except for
Tony Monero there.
because that was the guy that comes out. Doesn't he come out of like this like little closet thing?
Yeah.
He comes out and he goes. Oh my God! And that's what scares her, right? It's actually this guy that scares her to death. Right?
I think that's the thing to find.
Yeah.
That's another interesting trope. You know, the idea of being scared to death, which is actually really hard to do, especially, Daphne there was like in her early 20s. She's probably got a heart like an ox at that point. How are you going to scare someone to death?
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially when it's just this guy coming out and going booga booga. You know, that's not good.
Booga booga.
Booga booga over here.
Yeah.
Listen, we got to listen. We got to make him.
If we haven't offended anybody yet,
his accent is killing the whole vibe of the thing we're trying to do here.
And then you go back to the beginning, like you said. There's Captain Combe over there, and his wife, and he stabs his wife to death, and he's like going bonkers, and so he takes a bath to wash off all the blood, and she comes crawling in with the toaster, so it's pushing it along. It's got like the extension cord from hell, and
I guess
it's just, oh my God, what an effort, and it just takes forever. Oh my God,
and for no reason,
kind of brilliant.
And for no reason, they set the guy up like he's going to be a major part of this movie.
Oh yeah, took him right out.
Took him right out for no reason at all. He didn't even get eaten.
No,
but he did get to Shriek.
Toast him. But,
he got to Shriek, so there's that.
He did get to Shriek.
Would you like some comb over toast?
This scene feels a lot like early Findlay stuff. This could have been a scene from any of the Flesh trilogy. Just kind of weird murder.
Well, and they draw it out. First, he's laying there in the soapy bathtub with his clothes on.
Yes,
and he's sort of half-heartedly scrubbing the blood
off.
Sure,
yeah.
This is as opposed to.
This
like
Caro syrup really leaves a stain
or something.
And we were,
they really draw out the part where she's crawling across the floor.
It's a little padded. You kind of wonder if they were trying
to. It's great though. It's absolutely.
I know. It's actually, I thought it was like, well, I could see people doing that now in a movie. It's, same pacing, same effects.
Yeah, she had to, and she was tough. She had to go find this big long extension cord. And then crawl to the bathroom.
Because who knows where that thing was plugged in? Because it wasn't plugged into the bathroom.
No.
She was plugged in.
Listen, this is an unhappy marriage, and when those things end, it's amazing the reserves of strength and bitterness that people.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So we were talking about some of the actors, hitting, aiming for the fences, right?
Yeah.
The guy with the comb over. Because he's bonkers in the movie, and he has this this long drawn out dialogue about what happened, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, whenever, or 15 years ago, and oh my God, he is swinging for that. and
he is good. He reminds me of every person I've ever had to sit next to on a long bus ride.
Oh yeah,
like I'm a magnet for them. They just the whole bus could be empty. I'm just sitting there, and boom, they're right next to me, and they start telling their life story, and you got nowhere to go.
Do you know how many dust mites are on a flake of dust on your bed? Like thousands of them. You gotta, okay.
But you gotta admit that.
Well, I guess he was the guy that originally saw the creature at some point.
He was the original Fred,
The original guy. So I guess it did kind of tie into it. But
well, he was on the I think it was 8 years ago, they took another trip of students to do the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was the only one that survived. And he went a little crazy.
So
I don't know if he was.
Did he become a
guy that-
cannibal?
No,
I
he
don't know.
he became a scapegoat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to have somebody to blame, and that's why Fred was left to live. So
Well, and in this one, he picks the one guy to be like, the professor's decided that he's the right kind of person to join their group.
oh, that's right, he wasn't
Sure.
to join this.
So I didn't know if he did that to the comb over guy or not. But
And I guess he was. Now, okay, so here's the thing. The version that I just watched is a little bit different from the version that I remember seeing. The very literally the last shots in the film. I remember they really lingered on him drooling, just slobbering over now, white meat or dark. And he's like just lost his mind, and drool is just pouring out of his mouth now, like he can't wait to eat it. That seemed really short, barely even touched on the version I saw here. So
Interesting.
yeah, but why would he go
Probably
along with this?
Cut up like every other movie from that time.
I think he lost his mind by that time.
I guess so.
I will. I personally want to give the Velma character credit for looking dead, tied to a tree with her eyes wide open, no blinking. And I mean, they shove her up against a tree entire, and she's just like,
Yeah.
I thought
even though she's like tied at the waist, her head didn't flop.
She
Nothing.
did a
It just
great
stayed
job.
perfectly straight.
But she did look dead.
A little rigor
And-
mortis, but
yeah.
The part of it is
Yeah.
she was a likable character. She was quirky and kind of cute. And you felt bad when she died.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what a horrible plan. And again, our hero is going along with this plan. We're going to take your dead friends and use them as bait because we really want to capture the beast at this point. It's like, well, I guess they're already dead. So, what?
Because
Why
they
not?
they tried the leg first, but it doesn't work, right? But the bear trap, right?
It's not
The
going to
tiny-
catch
the
a Yeti.
tiny-
What's wrong?
Yeti.
The tiniest bear trap I've ever seen to catch an 8-foot tall Yeti creature. It's about that big around.
All
It
of
was
the traps were
It
designed
was a koala
to
bear trap.
scare the one woman, apparently.
That's true. That's true.
And all the killing
And they just had to keep going. Had
to
keep
become
trying.
the perfect meat, the perfect dinner.
Well,
And then when the cannibals are sitting around the table, I don't know why I'm examining this for story flaws, but they go with this whole thing. It's like, oh, you want to scare them, you don't want any bruising on the meat or anything. And then they're all talking about, oh, remember how Dave over here started an avalanche, and we got like, yeah, I'm pretty sure meat's going to be awfully bruised if you drag it out of an avalanche. All things being equal.
I like that the one guy, Dr. Karl Werner, the guy that lived in the house with the ponytail,
that's it.
he had a ponytail. His name on the credits, the actor's name is Tawm Ellis, spelled Tawm.
Tawm. He must be
Tawm.
he must be from Greensboro.
He's
He might be. He might be in that. Hilarious. Oh man, I don't know what else we can say about this film. It's out there on Tubi, and the Tubi version is actually sharp and clear.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's probably from the Blu-ray. Yeah.
And it has the popcorn song in it, so that was a surprise for me.
If listening to our description makes you want to go see this movie, may God have mercy on your soul. But there it is.
And
It's out there.
I know that some of you out there have already seen it. I know you.
Oh
have.
yeah.
I bet some of you like it.
I bet.
That's the kind of fans we have.
Is this
Jerry
considered?
Chandler.
Is this a cult? Is this a cult film? Is this
Yeah.
considered one
Oh,
of the cult films?
absolutely.
All right, okay.
Oh yeah.
Because it certainly fits. Certainly fits.
Well, you could get great dialogue like this. We practically pulled every trick out of the bag.
True that.
Yeah.
Straight
I've
up.
always heard bag of tricks or every trick in the book, not
Every
trick.
bag,
I like
every bag of tricks in the book.
I like the part where he said the
Mixed
Bigfoot
metaphors
sound
there.
was raucous like a moose. Like,
Yes.
Raucous.
I don't know. Saturday night, them mooses, they get kind of
the proverbial raucous moose sound.
they get to drinking, and them mooses, they
Well, and the guy that's running around with the rifle at the end, that's finally realizes the entire time there's been no shells in this rifle. It's blanks of some sort. He thinks he's shooting it, but
because then he like goes running down the hill, gets in a cop car and drives all the way back up with the cop, and shenanigans occur.
Unfortunately, when they're describing Laughing Crow, Dr. Prell says, or Karl says, unfortunately, the tribe doesn't believe in Yetis, and after severely beating him and cutting his tongue out, they cast him out of the tribe. Something tells me he would have left anyway. I don't know.
You think?
So that should have been the giveaway. See, if Daphne had been paying attention when he suddenly jumps out and he's going, it's like, wait a second, I thought your tongue was cut out. I smell subterfuge here. She should have figured it out.
That's the word they would use too.
Especially Prell.
Oh my goodness! All right, well,
I say the subterfuge afoot.
a foot even.
I mean, it's just the height, the fur, the fetid aroma, the subhuman face. But what shook me to the bone was its heartbeat.
And they played that heartbeat. What?
Good news, everyone.
That guy was great.
Fetid. That's a great word. Boy, you don't see. Someone has a thesaurus when they were writing the script. Thesaurus.
That was my favorite dinosaur.
But I don't know. It's part of the charm, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not charming. It just has a charm to it.
Yes. Yeah.
A type of charm.
Yes.
It's
All
unique.
Right. I think we can move on now. So
do we have any feedback?
We have feedback, right?
Oh,
but before
we're
we
gonna have feedback from this
we
one.
want your feedback about this one for sure. But let's move on. Dave,
Let us have it.
Jeff, feedback.
Yes, we do. The first one, and maybe one of you guys can understand what the heck this refers to. But episode 166, 167, I'm sorry, Reflection of Fear. That was one with Sandra Locke and Robert Shaw.
Robert Shaw.
And I, for the life of me, can't figure out what this is supposed to be. It looks like AB his she package PG81C.
Wow.
Maybe it's a bot. I don't know.
His he package.
That's who left the feedback. I first saw this movie as a kid on an afternoon movie, and I now understand why I didn't get this movie then, and why I failed to even get it over a decade later.
Well, it's why I didn't get this movie then, and why I failed to even get it over
Why
a
I
decade
still don't
later.
get it, right?
I don't either, but
Yeah.
Maybe it was a AI. I don't know. But thank you,
cool.
Abhashi package.
We welcome our robot overlord fans.
Let's see. The Visitor. Oh, for some reason, we only have comments on Chad's movies.
Interesting.
what do you
The
mean?
Visitor, episode 174 from Pocket Rocket, PJ1.
That's no bot.
Yeah.
I got a rocket in my pocket. Is that what they said?
Are you just happy to see me? Or?
Yeah, go ahead and read that, Chad, if you could.
Okay. Pocket Rocket says, I just love saying Pocket Rocket. Do you guys think the NBA would admit that one of their owners is a Satanist? LOL, they keep that shit on the down low. Of course, the basketball team names are different. The piano wire kill was pure giallo. Same with the birds in the film. How many Argento or Fulci films have eyeballs attacked in some way? A bunch.
No,
It's one of his trademarks. Mm-hmm. Elvis was a TV movie, I believe. 3,000 Miles to Graceland is one you're trying to think of.
3,000 miles to Graceland.
I don't remember what we were talking about with Elvis, but the other ones had to do with
the TV movie was with Kurt Russell.
John Carpenter,
Right.
The John Carpenter one, and 3,000 Miles to Graceland was the Kevin Costner
gotcha.
one. That was a theatrical movie.
I always like when the viewers help us with something that we've totally forgotten.
That
Yeah.
never happened, sir.
Well, where are we now? 194. Yeah, so this was not quite a year ago. But I do remember that there was an NBA team, and they played
that's right.
on a regular NBA port, but they had shirts with a different name on them. And that was the, one of the evil guys owned the NBA team.
Yes, he did.
A well-known person. Okay, episode 191, the Dunwich. And, we didn't talk about that, but that's, in England, they pronounce it the Dunwich horror.
Dunwich? No W? No word.
Hey, there's a W there, and it should be used. I'm against
Dunwich
silent
horror.
letters.
And this one is Chad, and, it's also Jerry Chandler, so go for it.
You want me to read that one too?
Yes, sir.
Oh gosh, look at all the pretty bullet points. Jerry Chandler says, Lovecraft adaptations can be slow. People have trouble getting it right. Limits in FX tech back then. Good film overall. Love
Al
the hologram.
Yeah.
Okay, with that out of the way, this ain't the first time you've sidetracked into posters like this, and there's a good reason it keeps happening. This decade, give or take a few years in either direction, produced some absolutely amazing movie posters, some being a better movie. That's true. We just talked about that tonight. Than the damn film they suckered you into the theaters to see. Hell, I'm in the minority here by liking it, but damn, the movie poster for The Land That Time Forgot that made me want to see fit. For years after seeing that poster, this was way the hell better than the movie I finally saw on TV.
Say that again.
Let's just let that one slide. Maybe nobody noticed. These posters were amazing. They were freaking works of art. And in some ways, they were damn near as important to the overall movie experience of that era as some of the movies were. Yes. Mm-hmm. So look, consider something. It would make a terrible audio podcast, but how about a special DOH 70s for just YouTube, where you look at these amazing film posters that made us all go crazy for a film weeks and months before it hit theaters, or even before we saw it, the first ad spot or trailer for them. Sounds good.
I like that idea.
Yeah. If nothing else, think of it as a breather episode when things are getting busy. You don't have to fit in time to watch a film. You don't have to dread whether or not it's going to be a good film. And the research will be largely limited to everyone getting the poster artists' names right for their favorite posters.
No,
good luck with that.
That'll take a lot of time.
Which, by the way, everybody, all of our listeners
Frank,
out there,
Frank Fazito.
Our offsite research department, if you could find a movie poster database that has the artist's name, we would greatly appreciate that. We've been bandying that around on the Gruesome podcast offices, Gruesome magazine offices, and we can't seem to find a good one, and are left to resort to there's movie poster databases, but they frequently don't have the artist. And you can reverse search the image in Google, but that may or may not tell you the artist as well. Right. So they have comic book databases, and they have internet movie databases for vehicles and aircraft and weapons. Why not poster artists?
There is a poster database out there, but I don't know if it gives us the artist on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think in a lot of cases nobody knows. It just wasn't considered
except for the famous ones, and we brought them up.
Right.
Right. I mean, even Neil Adams did a poster, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he did the
Grizzly.
Grizzly, and he did.
Frank Frazetta did the Fearless Vampire Killers, but those guys are so distinctive. You look at it and say, "Oh my god!"
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's obvious. If you know. And
who was it we were talking about back then? I forget. You came up with a book.
Yeah, was it last name Reynolds, or maybe that was his first name?
Yeah, no, that was his first name, Reynolds Brown.
Reynolds Browning.
Sure. But he did. A lot
there I am bringing.
One thing about this podcast is I love how everybody's so prepared.
His name was Reynolds Brown. Reynolds Brown.
Right.
And he did Ben-Hur, Spartacus. I mean, folks like him have a distinctive style, and they were in demand. But a lot of these, more subpar movies, some of them really do have good posters, and it's like, well, who did this? Was it one of these, good artists slumming or looking for a paycheck, or just, there's a lot of good artists out there that will work cheap just for the exposure. And that's
Now,
probably
the
about all they
advent
got
of
for it.
All right.
Photoshop.
So,
Right.
Somebody out there, here's your cue. Start a movie poster with artist database. All right. We have one more comment that's actually a suggestion that's very apropos considering what we talked about earlier from Dallas Nostromo.
Dallas.
Tubi currently has Kingdom of the Spiders. I'm not sure if you've ever reviewed that one, but it's one of my favorites from the 70s.
We need to.
It was one of Santos' favorites too.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
Need to do it.
We need to do that.
Squish,
We're working on them.
Squish. A lot of squished spiders.
Yep.
They drove over them. It's terrible.
All right. Next up is one.
Are you doing it or am I doing it?
Chad. That was too long of a gap. I couldn't wait. Chad, what are we doing next?
We're doing Tree on a Meat Hook, man.
3 on a meat hook.
And
who is the director of this? Bill Mulligan.
William Girdler, the guy who did the aforementioned Grizzly and Manitou and a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, this will be like the next to the last one of his in the 70s, right?
There's a couple other ones. There's
Abby.
Right, but the other ones are gangster,
right,
like blaxploitation movies, which there's no reason why we couldn't do them. But Abby's the one, and Abby's a difficult one because Abby is kind of blocked by Warner Brothers, but eventually it'll
Shudder used to have Abby when Shudder first started.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
They used to have Abby on there. Yeah.
Oh, maybe they'll bring it back.
I think you're making that up.
I know it. I know there's a copy out there that you can watch, but it is so bad. It's not worth it. I don't want to invest. I don't want to invest time in that one. I'm going to go Syndrome or one of the other companies.
Yeah, you know what, Doc? Actually, it's the exact opposite. Apparently, 3 on a Meat Hook was his first movie. It was even before Asylum of Satan.
Well, he meant the last one we have to cover, I think.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The next to last one we have to cover.
Oh,
not in order. Yeah. Anyhow, I'm looking forward to it. I've never seen it.
Yeah,
so this is gonna be fun.
Never seen it either.
All right, well there you go. That is Decades of Horror for their Shriek of the Mutilated. Oh my gosh, we made it through it. Please leave your comments down below. Oh my God, we need. Okay, I'm putting this out there. We need to have the most comments ever. Everybody comment about this movie. I want to know what people think about this movie. Oh my gosh. All right, Bill, Jeff, Chad, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was. Thanks for watching this, guys.
Thanks for choosing it. I wasn't going to do it. All right, let's say good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.
Gruesome Magazine.